Hey guys, it's me again, Orcslayer What Ifs. Where we last left off, let's see, chicken. The Gandalf What If. They met Galadriel. They also talked with the two, a king and a queen, and then there was Legolas, who just sat there in the back, not asking questions. And they explained what they saw and what they know about the orcs that they saw, like I said. They were then dismissed, and they went on their merry way. Now, a little while after that, they all leave. And Bel and them, Saruman believes that they may be sent on a mission, so he starts teaching them more spells. He also tries to teach them what spells that he personally doesn't know, that he doesn't really use. But he knows there are ways to use this, like enhancing your weapon with fire or something like that. Stuff like that. He teaches that to Bel, because he's like the only one who does even use the sword among the trio. Radagast is still learning more basic offensive magic, like how Bel was. He's trying to learn the whole magic bolt and all that, like trying to get the very basics down. And unlike Deku, he really is having trouble with that. Not Deku, sorry. Unlike Bel, he actually is having a struggle trying to get a good feel for it, because like I said, his thing is with woodland critters, not the woods and such, not magic and fire and such. Saruman believes that's just how it rolls, but he would still like him to know basic offensive magic. So, that being said, Deku is learning how to encase his weapons in fire. And he actually learns it really quickly, as it's basically just imagine there's fire on your sword and then poof, there you go. And I'm going to skip a few years into the future, because right now things are very slow when it comes to orcs. The attacks have lessened since a lot of the smaller towns have headed for larger settlements where they could easily defend from themselves. And the council is still trying to get information, but with how small these attacks are, everyone's just taking it as, oh, just more attacks than usual, is for those who don't really understand. The only reason why Saruman and Bel's father understood that was because they both have fought orcs before, and they know when something's up. Because if it was just a random band of orcs, even then they would have a leader, be either the strongest out of all of them, the smartest, or the most, smartest or cunning, if you prefer. They know these, and the most cunning orcs would think of a way to that they would come at them in the night. The strong orcs would come at them during the day, which is the thing that they took from each battle. A group of orcs attacked them during the day, while the other group kept on attacking till night, and also kept on sending troops around. It's a basic tactic, but it's still pretty smart for some orcs who would just rather go in and kill them. So, for that, what happens now is that... Sorry? Had sneezed, but I saved it. What happened is, now, like I said, they've been training for a few years. So, Bel is 16, and Radagast is 13. Now, as they're about to go leave on this mission, Gandalf has grown a bit more, and so Saruman wanted to give him a different weapon. A longer weapon, because that little short sword, he's pretty much outgrown it. It's like the size of his forearm now. About the size of his forearm. And Saruman thinks it would probably be better for Bel to have a bit more reach than just that. He's also gotten a bigger staff since he's been hitting the growth spurts. So Bel's like, alright, Lord Master Saruman. Saruman has been delving a bit deeper into some dark magics, just in case he has to defend them against such things. Like, what's it called? I guess a form of that would be, not necromancy, but, just using the darkness and such. That would be, like, curses, stuff like that. Poisons, I guess that would, curses that put poison in you or something. With that being said, Bell and Saruman are told to investigate some more. Saruman doesn't feel comfortable bringing Radagast along because he's still young. Bell was forced into those situations. If you can keep Radagast out of that, he would prefer he does. Because Saruman can tell Radagast isn't as combat-oriented as Bell and himself. So, Radagast is told to stay here and that other teachers will train him. And he's gotten better with other magics as well. Bell has just eaten up a bunch of magic. He's learned several ice spells, several fire spells, several lightning spells, several earth spells, and he can communicate with animals. But it's primarily moths, for some reason. They flutter around him. He's also good at making potions and such. And like a tiny bit of healing magic. So, they're ready to go. As they set off on their journey, Bell has his robes and his sword, and they get on their horses and leave. So he's like, Master Saruman, where are we moving to? He's like, to the north. To the kingdom of the dwarves. We're going to ask them if they've seen anything different. Well, not the kingdom of the dwarves, I'll say the kingdom of the elves for the first part. Is that they haven't received any messages recently, so the council is curious to hear an update from them, to hear if there's been any more attacks. It's like, alright, yes, Master Saruman, as they continuously follow after him. And even now, Bell's mastering some spells. He's also learned a blinding spell, where it just shines a very bright light. Some people thought it would probably be useless to have. Well, like it would be like a torch, like a magical torch if you didn't have fire or anything. Bell thought that would be pretty good, just in case I never ever need it. So as they ride off to their whole finish line, that being said, Bell and them stop turning on. Bell and Saruman are traveling across the world. And every now and then, they'll see a band of orcs way off in the distance. It's not even a band. Yeah, it's just like a wandering group of orcs. And they do have wargs and such. And it looks like they're having better armor. Saruman thinks they're probably hiding a little bit, making their attacks less frequent to gather more supplies. That way, when they attack, it's more effective. Bell's like, you think that's the case? He's like, indeed, Bell. Orcs are strong and cunning, but under a leader who actually knows what he's doing, they're a force to be reckoned with. Even with, it took the last time the orcs were under a war. The last time the orcs were united completely, it took the entirety of the elves, dwarves, and men to stop them. It's like, that's a lot. He's like, indeed it is, Bell. Now let us continue. As they go through there, making their way to Rivendell, and a few times they were attacked by a few things, like by a small group of orcs. It's like, orcs, master. It's like, you know how to fight, Bell. Do not be a stranger. As Bell draws his sword, as the orcs come, like, rushing as they typically would, Bell's like, firebolt, as then he crosses sword with the first orc. Saruman taking his metal staff and using it and smashing the orcs away. Shoots one with lightning and then uses shatter on another's face. As Bell finished getting the sword out of the orc's hand and running him through. Or, yeah, running him up through as he would. Throwing the orc off it. He's like, oh, annoying. Well, let us continue, Master Saruman. As they actually, he's like, hang on a second. As he looks at the orc's gear, he looks at, like, trying to see if there's any information. But he just finds the whole Eye of Saruman thing. As he's like, Master, I found this. As he's like, ooh, that's bad. Put that in your pack, Bell. Now, we ride further and quickly. As they start picking up, what's wrong, Master? That is the sign of one of the darkest creatures ever known to cross this land. So, we hurry. As they start traveling a lot faster. As Bell, like, quiets down and they start rushing. They even go throughout the night, like, trying to reach a location as fast as possible. As eventually they arrive at the gates, and it's been like 2-3 weeks of them traveling. They've had to fight off a few orcs here and there, but nothing too big to where they would get hurt badly. As the three of them did this, it's like, oof. As they arrive at Rivendell, Master, well, Lord Elrond, as Saruman bows his head, Bell following suit. It's like, Saruman, what are you here for? As he's like, Bell, show him the thing. As Bell reaches into his pack and shows it to him, Elrond, knowing what that means, he's like, oh shit. Come, quickly. As Bell and Saruman immediately follow Lord Elrond. Just like quickly rushing up after him. It's like do. It's like, now explain to me what you saw. Well, as we were attacked by several orcs on the road. Small groups, nothing too large than like 5 or 4. But a number of them had that on their persons. It's like, do you think he could have returned? It's like, not possible. Bell's like, who is he? He is a Dark Lord who once led the orcs in an attack against the kingdoms of dwarves, elves, and men. He almost won. Thankfully, we were able to stop him at the final battle. Took everything, even the Ents, creatures who generally stay neutral, turned to our side in realizing how big of a threat he was. What did we have? We had giants, a few dragons even, believe it or not. The dragons were only in it for their own gain. Bell's like, so? What do we do now? It's like, well, if he has returned, which I don't even know how it is, he's a necromancer. Necromancers never die, truly at least. That being said, That being said, Bell and them prepare themselves. And Bell still trains in the morning like he does. He's gotten pretty good. As even a few of those like young elves who like elven soldiers want to some of them do think of themselves superior to humans sometimes, especially when it comes to swordplay and such, but to be fair, elves typically have longer lifespans, and I think it's more along the lines that most of the elves you see are old already, and they've had decades of experience. Like, for elves whose lives are immortal, pretty much, what's considered to be young anymore? Like, is it still the same thing for them? Like, it can't be. Like, an 18-year-old to most people is like an adult or something, while to elves and maybe dwarves, like, it may be actually like when they're in their 50s or something that they be considered an adult or something along those lines. It's very confusing when it comes to that. So as Bell accepts the training partner, he grabs his sword and prepares. Breathing in and out very deeply, he's like, come. As the young elf comes in with his sword and shield, comes in with his shield, not shield, but his sword, swinging it very gracefully, but as Bell is able to block each one. As then, when he first crossed swords with the kid, he actually was kind of caught off guard. He's like, what? As then Bell presses the attack, even like kicking him in the leg, getting him to stumble a bit. As then Bell took his staff and like pretty much poked him in the forehead, causing him to fall over. As then he brought the sword close to his face. He's like, I win. As he says for the next one to show up, as he's like, alright, but no underhand moves. He's like, alright, fine. As then he prepares himself, and again, the elf comes swinging at him. As then Bell's like, alright. Crossing swords with it again, he then moves quickly into getting close, grabs the elf's hand, turns it, and then elbows him in the face. It's like, that was an underhand, that was a straight up fighting move. It's like, in a fight, you can't rely on being honorable and such. When you're in a fight, you fight and use anything available to you. As then, for the final one, he's like, I'm good. Like, that's unless you're just going to use your staff. Bell's like, alright. As he puts away his sword and then grabs his staff, he's like, are you ready? He's like, yes. As he comes rushing in with a sword and shield, seeing that Bell can't get close to him if he can. As then Bell just pretty much uses telekinesis and lifts him up in the air. He's like, I could shoot you with lightning bolt or something if you want. Like, this is not necessary. It's like, put me down. Come on. So Bell's like, alright. As Saruman and them, as Lord Elrond and Saruman see this, as Bell then just drops the kid. As Bell sits down, bringing out a pipe. Picked up smoking a pipe weed from some of the other ones. As he just starts smoking it in the giant pipe he has, like, I don't know the age requirements for that during those days. As he's just smoking pipe weed, Saruman's like, Bell, it is time for us to go. We must venture to the other elven kingdoms. He's like, yes, Master Saruman. So he quickly grabs his sword, puts it back on his like little belt, and walks with Saruman. He's like, so, which kingdom are we going to next? Mirkwood or Lothlorien? It's like, both are almost equally a ways away from each other and from here. So, I don't know. Lord Elrond, which kingdom do you think would be best to go to first? Like, probably be easier for you to go to Lothlorien first. Mirkwood, we haven't heard from Mirkwood in a while. But we have received reports from Lothlorien. Orcs are moving in larger numbers to the same direction. Where? To the east, I believe, would be a good way. Those lands haven't been gone into since, yes. That is what we fear. As he's like, goodbye, Lord Elrond. As he gives a bow, and then Deku and them are about to move, it's like, Bell. He's like, yes. Good job with your swordplay. Continue your training with that, and your magic. It's like, yes, Lord Elrond. As then they set off, going now all the way to Lothlorien. And it's very similar. They go across a large portion of land, running into a few orcs. These ones are much better armored. They have actual body armor. They have metal plating, gauntlets, and even a few of them have helmets. And they are starting to carry, like, proper metal shields. It's like, the farther we go this way, the more the orcs seem to be better armed, Lord Sauron. Master Sauron. It's like, indeed. Bel's like, As he sees a cool-looking helmet, he's like, not my... He doesn't like it and just tosses away. Their armor looks decently made, though. Or it's scavenged. Either way, it's decent looking. It's like, Orv's pig iron is almost armor is as good as the orcs in some cases. So, do not forget that, Bell. He's like, yes, sir. That being said, Bell and them make all the way across and make it to Lothlorien within another, like, almost a month of traveling. Well, I wouldn't say a month, more or less a couple of weeks of traveling. Because they are in a rush. But like I said, there's more orc movement within these areas. So they're taking it slow, keeping their eyes peeled, and trying to and they don't move at night at all. So it takes them a couple of weeks to get there. So, that being said, Bell and Saruman eventually arrive at Lothlorien. Being there and speaking as soon as they get the chance to with Galadriel, getting more updates. Lorien says they can stay here for a few days and rest. Saruman thanks Galadriel and Bell bows his head as well. She's like, As she looks at Bell, guessing that is his apprentice, guessing that, well, few years to a human is kind of like seconds or minutes for an elf, so she feels, I don't know the best way to say this, she somewhat is surprised, because, like I said, Bell's been getting those growth spurts, so he's gotten quite tall at this point. I don't know how tall Galadriel was, but I'll say he's close to her height. As Bell and Saruman make their way to their resting chambers and sleep there. Late at night, Bell's like, As he wakes up in the middle of the night, grabs his robes and grabs his pipe weed. As he sits on a nice little bench and just starts smoking, and he's like, being his favorite pastime, he's looking at the nice, beautiful woods and such. As then Galadriel shows up. He's like, oh, Lady Galadriel. As he's like noticing his pipe, he's like, it's just fine to smoke here, just not too much, and make sure no fires get anywhere. He's like, yes. As he sits down, quite nervous, it's like, so, how's your training been going, Bell? He's like, it's been going well. I've learned several new magic abilities. It's like, very proficient. Very proficient in several other magical fields like fire, light magic, a little bit of healing, as he gives explanations. As he explains that Master Saruman is a good teacher. But Master Saruman says it's mostly because of my inept ability to actually learn magic much quicker than most. It's like, do you know any plant magic? He's like, no, that one I never really got into learning. Master Saruman believed that it would be better for me to learn offensive-based magic. Because he said that he felt this thing with the orcs wasn't just gonna go away by itself. Force would be needed to quell the orcs, is what he told me. She's like, most likely, the orcs are tenacity and battle lost do make them quite powerful foes. So, next you are off to Mirkwood? He's like, yes, that is where our master said we are going next. And after that, you would return? Like, I do not entirely know. If things change, we may end up heading to even the land of the dwarves. My mother and father, from the human villages and such, are doing well. The orcs' attack have pretty much all but stopped. She's like, it's good to know. Then he stands up, he's like, forgive me, Lady Galadriel, but me and my master will be off early in the morning, so I must rest. As he gives a bow of his head. He walks away. She says, you know it's rude for someone to do that in front of a lady. To just abruptly leave. He's like, oh, forgive me. I am truly sorry. He's like, it's fine. Get your rest. He's like, thank you. And have a lovely night, Galadriel. Or Lady Galadriel. As he bows his head once more and returns to his sleeping place. That being said, Bell and his master wake up early in the morning. Before they leave, Galadriel hands them some things. Some of those jewelry. Like those elven jewelry and such, as gifts for coming this far. And thanks for bringing them the information. Saruman receives a ring, while Bell received a necklace that Galadriel hung around his head herself. He's like, thank you, Lady Galadriel, as he gives a bow of his head. Like, and as she pretty much says, do your best, child. As he's like, indeed I will. As he gets back on his horse and Saruman and him ride, like, yeah, as they rush off to Mirkwood. This being said, it's like, few of the elves were, what? As Bell was he was tense, but he spoke very, like he was well acquainted with Galadriel. He was very calm in speaking, but through body language, she could tell that he was almost to the point of being terrified. After talking with her a little bit, that lessened extremely. As in, Saruman's like, what did you do? He's just like, I just talked to her. Weird. As they ride off to Mirkwood, making it there with relatively good timing. Took them about 2 weeks to get there, and then a few more days of traversing the path. Eventually coming to the place. Eventually even finding elves inward, fighting giant spiders. Bell and his master helped fight them off. Bell used light magic, the actual light magic, to blind the insects and also stab them. He's like, the beast fear the light. Drive them back. As Bell launches a lightning spell at one, pretty much burning it with lightning. And slicing them to pieces with his sword. Like, hello, we are wizards from the... Yes, we know. Quickly, follow me onto the path. They get back on the path, and then eventually, they make it to the little stronghold. Sorry. As they make it there, they're like, oh. Oof. As they arrive at the location, Bell and Saruman are like, so, what now? Well, Bell's asking Saruman, like, the king will request our presence, most likely. As they meet with him, I forget his name still. I tried to retain it, but it's difficult. Having the explanation and explaining to him what has happened, he's like, Well, we have been being attacked by more spiders recently. Dark creatures, you could say. It's like, yes, that is what we thought. As for you, rest now, my esteemed guest. I will tell your master the information I have held. You may rest. He's like, thank you, Lord Elrond. As he's like, I'll have you shown to your quarters. As in, a few, like an elven servant comes and tells them the way. He's like, thank you, lady, my lady. As he follows her to a nice bed. As he's like, sleep on a bed. As he enjoys the feeling of bed now. He knows what it's like to sleep out in the wild with nothing but a sack for your head. And that's where I'll be ending it off on. I'll pick up more after this. Anyways, I hope y'all have enjoyed this. Hope y'all continue to enjoy this. And I hope y'all have a nice day, nice night, nice life.